I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at insori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the Village, Facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy a merch indeed, a child shall lead them.
Yes.
What?
You took my line.
What?
Because you usually say, and a child shall lead them, and I say, to buy our merch. But
Oh.
you went ahead and said it. You guys, our new line is up where it has the 2 skulls on our merch, so check that out. It actually might see it below. I'm not really sure. If not, go in the description of our videos and you will be able to find the links to our merch.
Of which you should buy, as the wonderful lady has instructed you to.
Right. Do so.
Speaking of which, this is the band NOFX. The name of the song is... Oh, I'm sure Doug Johnson's going to love the title of this song. Do Not Call Me White.
Don't do that.
Also known as Don't Call Me White. So there's that.
We are going to be... Actually, I have a live
Daniel
video of this.
Montgomery. Remember little Daniel? I've seen him quite some time.
We have a live video on the side. We can't play it on the video because it'll give us shut down or shut out. So I'm gonna play a live video on the side, so we'll be able to watch some action while we're here.
Well, right? that's the one we're using.
What?
We're using that video.
Well, we shouldn't be though, right?
It's not an official video. It's not from the band.
Okay.
Hey, Lynette James, good to see you. That's okay. Thank you for dropping in to say hi. We appreciate it. Do not call me white. NOFX, let's go.
Don't call me white. Don't call me white.
I won't.
Don't call me white. Don't call me white. The connotations where mine has been. Could it be some magic generating the mess we're in? I understand that language breeds stereotype, talk as I can. Accept responsibility for what I've done, but not for who I am. Don't call me white. Don't call me white. Don't call me white.
All right.
I'm very happy that poor DJ was here to hear this song.
Why?
You know how he is with that shit. Shout out to the homie. Hey, shout out to DJ. Shout out to DJ. Gang, gang. Gang, gang. Shout out to DJ.
All right. This lovely song, was brought to us by the big homie Dan. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. I don't believe he meant for us to read all of that. So, anyway, there it is. It's for Dan. Shout out to Dan.
Shout out to the homie.
What is that? Didn't he have like that logo of like a farting unicorn or something?
Yeah, something like that. He had a YouTube channel for a second that I really thought was going to be an important channel. I thought it was going to be one of those like, mid-level channels, but I thought the people that he would have reached, who's going to help a lot. But
there was a lot going on.
He's got a heavy focus on mental health and
Yep.
So he's got to pursue those things and make sure that that's the tip top thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this song, very interesting. I kind of had some of his mindsets years ago.
Which was what?
Well, or maybe it was more at the end, right here. So go ahead and label me an asshole because I can. No, accept responsibility for what I've done, but not for who I am. You remember, I'd be like, I never owned slaves. I never, you know what I mean? Instead of recognizing. Is that what he's saying, or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, I think that's
the general mindset here.
I think that's, I think it's people hating him because he's white, because, or I think there's a lot of white folks that believe that people hate them just because they're white, and that's it.
Yeah,
And a lot of this is us not listening to one another, which metastasized into the horrible tragedy of last year, where you have now Kyle Rittenhouse, in court fighting for his life. And
fighting for his life?
Well, I mean, you get a murder charge. I mean, that's a felony. I mean, it could change the course of your life forever. Now, people just have to understand. The issue is that we're not listening to one another. Mm-hmm. And so when people don't listen to each other, there's all this reactionary, craziness, and then people end up dead.
Yep.
And so it happens every time we do a Tom McDonald video, every single time. You'll say, here are the stats, here are the numbers. There's no engagement with that, because you got a demographic of people who, from my vantage point, I grew up being slandered in the media. I grew up being stereotyped in the media. I grew up being followed at stores.
Yeah.
So now when I see white folks upset about a Gillette commercial, it's not even that I don't have any pity. I'm confused. Because I'm like, I grew up like this. I grew up being treated like this.
Right.
I grew up being horribly portrayed in the media.
Yeah, which means you have a certain tolerance that's built up.
Yeah, so that but these are the same people 5 years ago that were mocking everybody, calling everybody snowflakes. And to me, my perception of this whole cultural conversation is, now that the barrel is being pointed at that group of people, they can't handle it. That's my perception. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's happening in the real world that's hurting people. Like, that's the difference. Like, when we get stereotyped, it has real world consequences. Mm-hmm. People kill us. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So from my vantage point, I'm like, what are you complaining about? This is just a normal day in America for us. This is how we've lived the entire time. So what's the problem? Mm-hmm. But to your point, you're saying, look, they don't have any tolerance for that. They're just cruising around, being, occupying this certain position in society, and now it seems that people turn against them. So did you feel that people were like, that you were a victim as a white person? Like,
yeah, I mean, a victim? I wouldn't say necessarily victim, but certainly like victimized, I guess. in certain circumstances where you felt like you couldn't.
You
Shoot,
felt
I gotta-
victimized as a white person.
Well, I think that there. So, you know, for instance, there's a certain group of people right now that, and I'm not sure, like, we can say the group if you think it's okay to say it. I just don't know, like, where things are politically. But there's a particular group of people that was treated horribly historically.
Who?
And now, that whole situation.
Yeah.
And they were treated very, very terribly, but now they're being horrible to another group of
Yeah,
people.
the Israelis are horrible to the Palestinians.
Right. And
And you're afraid to say it because of the that's still
there's
one group
so
of people
much.
you can't touch without a consequence.
Well, right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, well, yes, what happened to the Jews was wrong. Like, that should never have happened. But it did happen.
Well, it didn't just happen to the Jews. It happened to a lot of people. There's 11 million people liquidated by Mr. Hitler in Germany.
Right. But the Jews have, situated stuff in such a way that people hear about it and they feel the impact of it if they, and it probably has to do also with people saying that the Holocaust never happened. Like, there's
you got these
whole
crazy
groups of people saying
you got
stuff
crazy
like that.
people denying the Holocaust.
Right. So it's
are
you serious? And,
Yeah.
like, there are still people alive today that lost all their family.
There are people alive today that still have tattoos.
Right. So it's like,
Yeah.
But in turn, they've turned around and they're treating the Palestinians really bad.
Yeah.
And killing all these different things that are taking place, and that's really terrible. And
There
I think
there are, the documentary, Gaza Fights for Freedom. They're doing interviews with a lot of these Israelis on the
Yes.
street, and they're talking about ethnically cleansing
Yep.
the land.
Yep.
We joke around
And
a lot
of
about
those
it.
people were the young people.
Correct.
So that's even scarier.
Correct. We joke around a lot about it on the channel, but to me, if you don't have an understanding of original sin, you are going to continuously make these mistakes.
Yeah.
You're going to continually create a situation where, see, this is where I disagree with Tucker Carlson and the rest of the Marxism, blah, blah, blah. The issue is not that there is oppressor or oppressed class. That's not a dispute. That's not in dispute. The issue is that if you come from that group, you're automatically canonized. Mm-hmm. So if you come from the group that's under some form of oppression or injustice, that automatically makes you a good person to them because you're in the lower class. And then if you come from the group that is the oppressor class, you're automatically a bad person. And that is not an easy web to untie. I say this all the time. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot celebrate the 4th of July when you did not shoot off a single round in that war and then say, that was my ancestors, I had nothing to do with it. You're celebrating the 4th of July because you know the actions of your ancestors put you in this position you are today. Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't only work for the good, it also works for the bad. That's just plain logic.
But people don't want to do that.
But people don't want to. But here's why. Here's why they believe if they concede that they're conceding to some special kind of evil. Now they're in some special class of bad, and quite frankly, that is the way that a lot of the left-wing media presents it. That white people should be in a perpetual state of head hanging down, yada yada yada. That's why I say things like, look, Tom McDonald is obviously taking advantage of the political seats and Laban that we're in. Mm-hmm. He understands that he's limited artistically, but he's a master advertiser. And for that, I respect him. So I believe, like, I'm working like crazy to make sure that my grandkids have an unfair advantage over everybody else.
Yep.
And they're going to be able to benefit from the grinding that we've done. They're never going to. Now, there's no analogy between me grinding and doing an honest day's labor and owning other human beings and taking their labor from them, which is what slavery was, and then enriching my kids and my great grandkids off of slave labor. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that never gets introduced into the conversation. And I've yet to meet one of these. Hey, I had nothing to do with. I've never met these people. who they're in the UK they celebrate Winston Churchill. He was racist bastards as everybody else. Like, and I don't have I read that story with one of my friends had written a book and he was talking about how they were in Afghanistan and they were hooked up with
There he is.
What's up, Uncle Dan?
Your song's on.
And they were hooked up with the German special forces. Mm-hmm. And the German guys are like, look, we do this ritual every year. Can we do it? And of course the Americans are like, of course, can we watch? And the Germans were like, okay. And that's kind of weird. And then they're around the campfire. The Germans are doing their little thing and they start goose stepping and doing all this shit.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, well, my friend's right, and he says, look, these guys are warriors, okay? And warriors understand that they were in a line of other warriors, that we've been doing war from the beginning, and there is something special about connecting this generation of warriors to the previous generation of warriors. But guess what? If you're German, the previous generation of warriors were Nazis. And are you going to say that every single Nazi soldier was a horrible, terrible, horrible, nasty, rotten person? No. There were many good, kind-hearted, but if you're from Germany and you're rocking with Germany, guess what? You're fighting for Germany. What do you expect them to do? Defect and fight for us? So this whole thing where Americans are trying to figure out the confluence between the collective and the individual.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that you're dealing with in this song is that this guy doesn't like right or left narratives about race, but I don't think he's reconciled himself to the fact that it is inescapable that you are part of a collective. You didn't give yourself your first name, and you didn't give yourself your last name. Okay, so that means that you're part of a collective. Your first name is a name that your dad gave you, and that's you as an individual. But your last name is the last name that you have. That connects you to a family, a collective of people. Mm-hmm. And you can't say, I'm proud to be an American, and then say you're an individual. Well, if you're an individual, you can't be an American, because an American is a group of people. So there's this constant, I didn't do this. I'm an individual. So when it's bad stuff, we want to say we're individuals. And then when it's good stuff, we want to take. And I say we because, like, for example, I say we just killed all these people in Afghanistan. I constantly say we.
Yep.
Did I drop the bomb? No. But the bombs came from the US of A, and I am an American. And I'm not going to say I'm an American when the Star Spangled Banner's playing and we win in the Olympics, and then not say I'm an American when we bomb the shit out of innocent people. Yep. You can't have it both ways. And I just think, to me, it's but again, I have a Christian framework.
Well, I was going to say, we've even adopted that into our Christianity. That's why we'll say, the church, and we'll apologize on behalf of our people for the way that, child molesters and, leaders of organizations have made victims out of their congregants. Mm-hmm. And we've apologized on behalf of our people because we're like, okay, we're not good with that. Like, obviously we have a massive problem with that happening. However, we are Christians and they are our people. And so if an apology is going to come forward, we're going to put that apology. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And of course, Christians, I understand secular right-wingers trying this individualism stuff, but it's completely inconsistent with the Christian worldview. I mean, poor Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson went up there and said, we're held responsible only for our own sins. And somebody goes, Tucker, Christianity has this thing called original sin, where you deal with things like you're called. The scripture says you sinned along with Adam. It's individual. There's nowhere about this individualism nonsense in the Bible. It's just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You're either in Adam or you're in Christ. Mm-hmm. Those are two guys who represent entire billions of people. Yep. As a matter of fact, from a biblical perspective, sorry, capitalists, but from a biblical perspective, you're only in one of two camps. The camp represented by Adam or the camp represented by Jesus. That's it. Mm-hmm. And you don't come to God as an individual in the Bible. You come to God through covenant, and covenants are never made with individuals in the Bible. They are always made with families, nations, and kingdoms. So from a Christian worldview, this is a non-issue if we're applying our theology correctly. The problem is that we are not doing a very good job of communicating to people. It is okay to admit that your forefathers were racist bastards and set up your society that gave you unfair advantages. It doesn't mean that you did not work.
Yeah.
If Barry Bonds is not going to the Hall of Fame, nobody believes that Barry Bonds was a bum. As a matter of fact, many of the top baseball analysts say that Barry Bonds is still the greatest baseball player of all time. The issue is he took steroids, and the steroids gave him an unfair advantage.
Right.
That's all that people are saying. But then what happens is people hear white privilege, and instead of defining the term the way the folks who coined the term defined it, Tucker Carlson redefines it and says, these people are saying that you didn't work hard and that you didn't do anything, and so we're not listening to each other.
And he's playing off the issues that people are already saying that they have.
Correct.
Even though those issues are wrong.
Correct.
Like that's
Correct.
I guess I'm kind of like judging him. I'm thinking to myself, like, can you imagine having a job that you're stirring stuff up knowing that you're causing more problems than there needs to be?
Who, Tucker?
Yeah, and he was lying on that other thing about
Tucker
interviewing, not the interviewing, but like what the process was in the classes that they were having people take at their jobs against, to not be racist.
Yeah, I mean, look, it depends on what your goal is. Tucker's goal is not to communicate the truth to his constituency.
Obviously.
Tucker's goal is to maintain a sort of superstructure for his kids. Mm-hmm. And he's very purposeful about that. And from a secular perspective, I understand and respect that. Like, I could take my Christian side and say, holy shit, you're not being truthful and honest, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. But if I were to take the Christian side of me out and just fronted my secular side, I'd say, okay, you have to respect that. The guy, if I take morality out of it, I respect Tucker Carlson, because the guy is doing what he feels is necessary to secure an advantageous future for his seed and his children's children. So from a secular perspective, I can't be mad at him for that. As a Christian, obviously, and a guy who's claiming to be a Christian, obviously there are massive problems, massive problems with just being an out and out blatant liar like that.
Yeah.
But I understand what he's trying to do. So, like, that's the thing. And the problem with guys like Tucker, though, is that he inflames the emotions of these people. And because most people are not YouTubers who can, decide when they're going to work and, we're not on a clock. So anytime he says something dumb, we can do a bunch of research and figure shit out. Mm-hmm. These people are working X amount of hours doing all types of craziness, and they come home, they're all beaten down and tired, and then they hear Tucker, and they go, and he riles them all up, and by the time, he's on, they're all tired and burnt out from work. And so, I understand what he's doing, and he knows what he's doing. He's doing a very, very good job at it. So you have to be, okay, Doug or Ben Shapiro. Doug, do you believe that if Kyle Rittenhouse was Davon Bennett, that Ben Shapiro would be having a live play-by-play of Davon Bennett's trial? Well, the answer is no, because if Kyle Rittenhouse was Davon Bennett, he would be dead, right? You know that, Doug. You don't believe that a brother could kill 3 white people and then stroll past police?
No way.
With a bunch of people saying that guy just shot a bunch of people? You don't believe that. So this is what confuses me. It's like, we all know this stuff. Like, we all know, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, look, produce a video where a black kid's going around murking people, shooting people, and then he gets to go by. I mean, honestly, Kyle Rittenhouse was trying to get arrested because he felt like if he was in police custody, he'd be okay. But he couldn't.
You think that's what he was doing?
100%. 100%. The kid, I believe, if I was on that jury or the judge or whatever, I would throw this case out immediately. I wouldn't even all the antics that the prosecutors are doing. I wouldn't even care. I'd look at the video and I'd say, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you serious? What the hell do you think the kid was supposed to do?" I'm pretty certain the kid just wanted to get himself arrested because he knew that nobody was going to touch him if the cops arrested him. But so he went to the door and people like, he shot someone. They let him go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not going to happen to us, Doug. It's not. So this is the thing that gets me with some of my friends is that they'll say, "Oh, why are you bringing up things to divide us? We need to unite." No. We're not going to unite.
We're already divided.
I'm not going to unite among that kind of a system, right? It's easy for you to say that because your kids look like Kyle Rittenhouse, but my kids look like Trayvon Martin. So I'm not uniting with that kind of a system.
Right.
And so that's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem is that these things continuously get missed. And we're not able to deal with the issues because people are so flamed up and they're so emotional. And there's nothing wrong with being emotional, as long as your emotions are in line with actual reality. Because many times emotions can stir you to do what's necessary. You know, William Wilberforce used emotion to a very, very powerfully to end the transatlantic slave trade.
Yep. Yes,
and when the American soldiers saw what happened to the Jews in Auschwitz, they had an emotional reaction and they initiated swift justice. And so I'm not saying that emotions are bad. What I'm saying is when people who are very intelligent manipulate the emotions of unsuspecting people on them, because society has a contract with the media. Society says, listen, we got to go out and be productive and maintain the economy and maintain the infrastructure. What you get to do is you get to get away from all that, and all you have to do is look at what the powerful people are doing and tell us what the hell they're doing. Okay? So we'll build that and you do that so we know what the hell is going on. That's a social contract that the populace has with the media. But when the media, so for a long time, when the media would say something, it was like, that was like the words of God. That was it.
Oh, yeah.
And they were generally unquestioned. So
we didn't have the options that we have.
You didn't. Correct. That's exactly right. So here's Wade who says victim mentality. Again, these statements, victim mentality is not that's not a wise way of addressing the issue.
No.
Right? The reason that you have laws is so that you can avoid anarchism. And I'm not talking about good anarchism. I'm talking about absolute and total lawlessness. So what happens is when people and they say, "Hey, we have a quarrel with when a person comes back and says, "Oh, you're just playing a victim," what's going to happen is we're going to say, "Oh, okay, we're in a country flooded with 350 million guns. There's 330 million Americans and 350 million guns. So if you consistently deny a group of people justice and brush it off and call it a victim mentality, they're going to say, oh, okay, we're going to stop playing victims. We're going to start making victims. And then people are going to start dying." So I don't think that's a rational thing to do. The real issue to do is if a person says that they have a quarrel and their rights have been violated, the real question is, okay, have your rights been violated? Who did it? And how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? That's the proper way. If a woman comes to me and says they've been sexually assaulted, I'm not going to go, "Oh, stop with the victim mentality. Stop with the victim. Stop being emotional." Which is what a lot of men tell women, by the way. Which is why a lot of women will not report sexual assaults. But it's easy for me as a man to say that. Because if I go jogging right now, there's not a thought in my mind that somebody's going to jump in the woods and snatch me up and violate me. So I can say, "Oh, don't be emotional."
Yeah.
But I would be wrong to say that to you. And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to say, "You know what? Fuck this shit. I'm going running with my gun." And so if any dude looks at me a certain way, he's getting it. So I don't think that's a wise thing to do. Right? That's not wise. So there's no problem with emotions. Emotions are good. God gave us emotions. The issue is that you have a group of people who are very, very, very afraid. because they see the tide is shifting. And so that's the only way I can explain, like, for example, the way they reacted to the Gillette commercial and these other things.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a fearful reaction. And so now anytime somebody talks about just, I put that meme up that got shared a bunch of times in another forum where Jesus says, love your neighbor. Mm-hmm. And then all the people in the crowd was like, Jesus is going woke, because it's just a fact. Read the Sermon on the Mount. If Jesus showed up today and said the Sermon on the Mount, all the right wingers, Ben Shapiro, all the rest of them, they would be saying that Jesus is going woke. Oh, absolutely. They absolutely would. If John the Baptist were to tell a soldier, stop oppressing people, which is what he did. Yep. Stop oppressing people. John the Baptist is going woke because he's telling people in authority to stop abusing people. Oh, he's a Marxist. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And then you say, okay, how much Marx have you read? They haven't read any Marx. So to me, I say, okay, this means this person is not arguing logically, which was my mistake. When I was dealing with folks, I was projecting the way that I process information onto them. And so I would say, what have you read? What are the stats? Where's the documentation? And they didn't have any. Mm-hmm. Well, I was coming from a logical standpoint where you're talking about numbers and data. Yeah. They're coming from a standpoint of they're scared to death because they don't know what the country's going to look like in 20 years. Or they're scared to death because they know what the country's going to look like in 20 years. Like the El Paso shooter who said, I look at the future and I'm going to have to compete with these people. Mm-hmm.
And
he's talking about Mexicans.
Yeah, the facts are, I think that if we step back and we look at the environment that's created for people that are not white in America, there's a certain level of strength that you have to have about you to endure the different things that you're going to face, whether that's in the work field or just regular life. So if the playing field gets evened, then there are going to be a whole group of people that are more mentally tough to deal with certain situations, who are better suited for certain spots in the workforce. That's
literally what the kid said. And he was saying that, and he was saying, look, I'm doing this to encourage our friends. He didn't hate them in the sense of, oh, he's horrible. He was just afraid that he was going to have to compete with them. And he knew that he didn't have that fortitude because he didn't deal with the adversity that those people dealt with. And so he was scared literally scared to death. And he viewed himself as, well, this is my contribution. Mm-hmm. I can hopefully get these people out of here. And I thought to myself, there was a lot of, you can't read this. People were saying that you shouldn't read this. You're glorifying a killer, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that, but I think it should have been read everywhere because that dude said the quiet part out loud. Yeah. That dude is Tucker is on one spectrum. He's at the other end of the spectrum. And this is where this stuff gets dangerous. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then what ends up happening is you take a kid like that who went around and blasted everybody. And then what happens on the other side is you take a kid like Kyle Rittenhouse. And now you want to lump Kyle Rittenhouse into that same, mentality. Gosh. Kyle Rittenhouse is not that guy. Right. He is not that kid. Kyle Rittenhouse was a guy, I believe, who was unfortunately, his parents are devotees, I'm sure. His mother, I'm sure, of Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. And he was misguided by the people that, and then he got put in a horrible situation. Yep. And I'm sorry, if you saw that video, this is not some crazy white boy going all over the place. The kid exercised tremendous discipline. I froze frame one of the videos where he was prone on the ground and he had the dude dead to rights. And the dude was an aggressor 2 seconds ago. The dude saw that Kyle had his muscle pulled, and the guy put his hands up. Kyle immediately lowers the muscle. I mean, crazy discipline. But now what's happening is we want to put Kyle Rittenhouse and the El Paso shooter in the exact same category because we're now in a state where we're talking about Tucker, but on the other side of the spectrum is you have all the left-wing media that wants to crucify this kid. You had somebody talking about him getting assaulted in jail and laughing about it in one of these, I think it was The Hill or something like that. Big giant channel. LeBron mocking this kid when he's having a breakdown on the stand. LeBron, I don't know your life, bro, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that you've never had the burden of killing anyone. I'm going to guess And here's the thing about Rittenhouse, right? If he showed up in the stand and he was completely
There's
calm,
no right way to act.
let's say he was completely calm and stoic.
Yep.
What would people say? They'd say,
Wow,
"Look at
yeah.
this
Yeah,
white
I know.
sociopath." They'd say,
no way.
They'd say, "This kid, you killed 3 people and you're just completely fine. This shows that he's a sociopath." The kid has a nervous breakdown. Now, look, he could have been acting whatever. I'm telling you, I've been around some of the hardest, baddest motherfuckers, pipe hitters, killers, whatever you want to call them. And outside, it was like, "Yeah, man, blah, 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 you're a badass." And there's a couple who they just didn't, they enjoyed it. Yeah. And they're into this day, you know, and then when they get booted out of their units, they'll just join indigenous forces somewhere to fight because they're just, you know, but for the most part, I've seen what Kyle was doing. I've seen that. I've seen it in hard, really hard dudes that are stand-up dudes. I've seen it. So when I'm seeing Kyle, I'm like,
You're thinking about that.
I'm thinking about those guys, and then I'm thinking about my son, who's 16 years old.
That's all I keep thinking.
And I know how sensitive Dorian is. And I would want my son to come home. If them fools was coming after my boy, I'd say, "Yo, send those fools to Allah. We'll repent later, and we'll take our chances in court." Chances aren't going to be very good because you're not Kyle Rittenhouse, but we'll try. But I know that that's exactly how Dorian would react. So for LeBron, who doesn't know this kid, who has never taken a life before, this kid is recounting the worst moment of his life. You know, as I've said, you know, the reason that we have medals and parades for soldiers is to undo their conscience. It's the entire reason that we pin people with medals is to silence the voice of their conscience. And that's the reason a lot of vets have such a hard time, because they're being celebrated for something that they feel is the worst thing they've ever done. So I was talking to a guy, and he was like, he was certain that Kyle Rittenhouse was faking. That was this big, you know, emotional whatever. And he goes, and I said, I've known people who've done killing who reacted the exact same way. And he goes, "Yeah, but they don't go around saying free as fuck and you know, acting all arrogantly." I'm like, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Especially if your surrounding culture is telling you should be happy for doing what you did. Yes, they do.
Wow.
They celebrate, they act like they're badasses, and then they go home and shoot themselves in the face.
Oh, God.
But if you don't know what that kind of trauma looks like, and you're judging this kid, and I know he just turned 18, Bebweb said, but when this happened, he was a child.
Yeah.
And he's still a child. Nothing happens magically. You could tell that this kid is not, you know, like when you talk to Dorian, you can tell that Dorian mentally is about 24.
Yes.
This kid is about 17 years old still. And so my heart just went out. My heart just went out to the kid. But what's happening is you're taking the El Paso shooter and you're taking Rittenhouse and you're squashing them together because they're both white. Well, they're both white. They both have guns and they're both right-leaning. So that must mean that Kyle is just like this crazy. And again, now the left.
Is that what they're saying? Or you piece that together?
Of course, that's why this kid is not getting a fair trial in the court of left-wing opinion and black opinion. Because most of the people I've been going head up with on this Kyle Rittenhouse thing are black people who are saying, "Oh, I'm like, let me get this straight. The black kid's getting chased around by 3 white dudes, and he puts all those boys on the ground. You're saying that he should go to jail for the rest of his life?" So we're not thinking rationally on either side. There's all this emotionalism, and the media now is choosing a camp and choosing a tribe and then driving bullshit narratives. And then we come in, and because we refuse to apply logic and rationality to these issues, we then exacerbate this issue. I'd be very surprised if this kid's alive in 5 years.
Oh my God.
Because he's got nowhere to go. He's got the crazy left-wing people who want to get raped in prison. And then he's got the crazy right-wing people who keep calling him a hero and saying, "I want you to marry my daughter," and all this bullshit, when he hates himself for what he did. I've been around killers. If you've ever had the burden of killing, you know.
Wow.
So, like, this is the situation. Now, here's Killer Satan. One incident equals an entire race had an advantage over another. So, Killer Satan doesn't understand what he's talking about. Nobody's saying that one incident means that one race has an advantage over another. That's why it's called systemic racism. Because we're talking about a system and superstructures. We're not talking about a single event. See? So just like you have to balance out the collective versus the individual, you also have to balance out systems versus events caused by those systems. So I would encourage you to educate yourself on those situations before you say things that make you end up sounding really ignorant. And ignorant is not an insult. It means you lack knowledge. Okay? So everybody's ignorant in something. Unless you're God, you're ignorant of something. The only people who are stupid are people who are ignorant on purpose. And I trust that you're not going to be ignorant on purpose and that you're going to humble out and read before you comment. So look, my thing is Kyle Rittenhouse is not the El Paso shooter. I don't believe that Kyle Rittenhouse should even be standing trial. This is a complete the fact. Look, people are upset at the judge because they're like the judge is biased. Blah, blah. The judge is not. Look, I don't know whether or not the judge is biased or not, but I will tell you this: the judge is acting exactly in accordance with the law. He's talking exactly. So, for example, when we went after the guy because he was saying, "How come you haven't said anything about this?" And the judge is like, "The fuck is wrong with you?" He's allowed to not say anything. He's got the right to remain silent.
And all of us know, like, the more you say, the more incriminating it's going to be.
Correct.
Of course he should be quiet.
this kid knows there is nothing he can say.
There really isn't.
And nothing he can do.
Yeah.
These people hate him. LeBron hates him. I don't understand. I gotta pause, and this has nothing to do. I don't understand LeBron. You made that mistake with that other cop.
No, it's like you didn't learn.
Talking about you're next. What you're doing now is worse. This is a child.
What do you expect? The whole world revolves around him.
Yeah, no, that's my point. My point is, you know the world revolves around you. What are you doing? This is a kid. To me, it's worse. Because I'm like, look, if you're a cop, you signed up to die. Sorry, I don't care. And I've got people in my family who are law enforcement. And, personally, I'm like, but, like, you know what you signed up for. But this is the kid. This kid didn't sign up for this shit. His brain isn't even fully developed.
I can't.
His brain isn't even fully developed, and LeBron gets on Twitter and says all this shit.
Yeah, I didn't see what LeBron said.
He basically said, he was fake crying, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, bro.
It's so unbelievable to me how people are so quick to judge other people and their motives and why they're doing what they're doing.
But the video was there. The video is there for all to see. Mm-hmm. The video is there for everybody to see. So that's my problem. Yeah. It's like, you saw that video. You saw the first guy, the white dude, who's the child molester who's been canonized by these people. He actually went up to Rittenhouse and says, "Do something, nigga. Do something, nigga." He's white. He gets a pass. If Kyle Rittenhouse would have said, "Okay, nigga, I'm gonna show you something, nigga," it would have been all over the place.
Oh, absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? We've gone absolutely crazy, and we're losing our humanity over this shit. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, Kyle Rittenhouse is innocent. He did not go in there to kill anyone. Ridiculous. I don't believe that. He was terrified. He was scared to death. And when people surrendered, he did not shoot them.
Yeah, he didn't look like the type of person that's hoping something's going to pop off so he can shoot.
He was terrified.
Yeah.
And when the guy, 275 knows, dude, he was prone. He had him dead to rights, center mass, bang, bang, done deal. And he had him, and he waited twice. The reason he got tackled in the first, he got tripped up and he got tackled. He was scanning and the guy was coming after him with the skateboard and he waited until the kid contacted him. I'll tell you what, 275 knows. I tell my son, if you're in that situation, bro, don't let that motherfucker come up to you with that, but fucking send that dude to Allah. Send him to Vrindavan. I would have. He waited.
Because he didn't want to.
He didn't want to kill anybody. Yeah. That was obvious.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm so passionate about, because it's like, dude, we have the fucking video, LeBron. Come on, man. You got kids as old as Kyle Rittenhouse. You wouldn't want people doing that to your kid.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I do, yeah.
And now they're bringing up, he beat up a girl and all the rest of this stuff. I'm not going to do this kid what they do to us all the time. They dig up everything in the past as if it's relevant. It's completely irrelevant. You saw the fucking video. The kid was running scared for his life. He does not need to be a fucking saint. And look, here's another thing. I don't give a fuck if he's a white supremacist. He doesn't deserve to die because he has a bad ideology.
Yep.
Now look, based on his parents and all the rest of it, I have my own stereotypical ideas of where he stands on those particular topics. I don't care. It's not you don't get the death penalty for being a white supremacist in America. But this is where we are now. Like people are telling me, well, he's a white supremacist, Vin. As if that's supposed to justify him being killed. What?
It's crazy because we'll see it a lot of times when if you have bunches of kids, you'll be able to see human nature at play on a small scale, and then it's much easier to see it in the real world. So there might be let's say one of them does something wrong, and sometimes they get on a kick where they keep messing up. They're gonna do this, then they're gonna do that, then they're gonna do this, and it seems well, you wanna get into grounded every single day. What are you doing? You know what I mean? And then sometimes the other kids will start acting and talking like they're better than the one that keeps messing up.
Correct.
And
correct.
It's the weirdest thing. It doesn't even take that long. All of a sudden they're up on some lofty hill they've never done anything wrong before.
Correct.
And it seems like that same pattern is being worked out in society on a much larger scale, where people are quick to forget all the places that they've screwed up, all of the things, and then everybody's just crucifying this kid. He was 17 years old.
It's not right. That kid does not need to be in a court. He needs to be in a hospital.
I was going to say he needs
therapy.
Medical attention.
He needs meds. He needs to be surrounded by people that love him.
Yep.
He doesn't need to be told that he's a hero. He needs to be surrounded by people that love him unconditionally, and that's what he needs.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty.
He doesn't need, and I don't even understand why this trial is even made open to the public. To this kid, it's just a horrible situation. And if you can watch that video and say that this kid is the same as the El Paso shooter or Columbine, I'm sorry, you're just a dishonest actor. And here's the other thing: if you can watch that video and see that little white boy stroll right by the police unmolested after a bunch of people said this guy was the shooter, after you've heard nothing but gunshots, and he walked by 3 police cruisers full of cops and knocked on the window trying to get arrested.
Yeah.
And if you say that a black kid would have got the same treatment, you're also a fucking liar. And the Rittenhouse situation crystallizes perfectly the issues in our country.
Yeah.
You got the left-wing people that will not apply any nuance whatsoever and have no pity for this kid. And then you got the right-wing people who want to just deny plain and obvious reality. Ladies and gentlemen, if that was Davon Bennett, he would have been killed by the police. You wouldn't have heard a word about no fucking trial. Period. End of story. Okay? We know that. But we also know from what we saw in the video that this kid had more trigger discipline than I would have had. You guys know me. I don't believe in killing. But if I would have decided to kill people that night, and Kyle had already shot somebody. If I already decided to kill people that night, there's no way in the world you would have touched me with a skateboard, bro. No, sir.
Yeah.
No. But you
where's the wisdom? You see somebody walking around with a gun that big, why would you go after
You know
them?
why? Because he was not displaying a hostile affect.
Yeah.
He was displaying fear, and that's the reason they went after him.
Because that last one that went after him, I'm like, what the fuck? He'd already just shot 2 people. Why would you go up to him?
Correct. That's the thing.
But he was on his back.
He was not displaying. He was not showing I'm a hostile actor. He was terrified. And people know when a guy's got a gun and he's got a hostile affect, as in, you don't have to be trained on this. You know what a hostile affect look like.
Yeah.
People are going to clear out.
Yeah.
But when a guy looks terrified, people take their chances. The very fact, to your point, that they even charged that kid indicates that they did not read him as a hostile actor.
Yeah, but I don't understand how you could be that ignorant. He just shot 2 people.
Well, no, he shot 1 person, and the second and third was like a bang situation.
One of them, he was on his back, and the kid went up to him, and it was just
that's the guy.
The last one, right?
No. That was the
second.
That was the second one, and then he hit the other guy. The other guy had a gun. He was pointed. He had a gun, and he hit him hit him on an arm right there.
Wow.
So it was just a terrible situation.
Yeah.
Terrible situation. So. Both sides of it, it's extremely tragic. I'm praying for the kid, and I haven't even watched the full meltdown video.
Ugh.
I haven't watched it because I stopped halfway through it because it was too much. It was too much for me. I'm not gonna, because I knew what people were gonna do to that kid, man. I knew it.
Really?
I knew it. I didn't expect LeBron to do that. I expected LeBron to. Anyway, I'm not gonna repeat it, but anyway, shout out. I mean, look, man, rest in piss to the guy who molested those kids. You got what you got, motherfucker.
Well,
So, but the other guys, you know, rest in peace. But horrible situation. But that's why I said, yo, Jesus, bro, if you don't come save us, we're doomed. Period. End of story.
Wow.
Period. My man Jambi is in.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. What do you give the song, babe?
All right. I give the song a 10 because it was a very brave song in my opinion, and it's one of those songs that's more relevant now than it was when it was written
In 1994.
In 1994, and I do believe that we're gonna find a way to figure this shit out. Mm-hmm. I really believe that. I really believe that. And it's got to start with us applying some nuance and listening to each other. And, you know, the scripture says love overcomes a multitude of evil.
Yep.
Some stuff that your friends say, I've got white friends. I got one of them in the channel. And he said some incredibly, like, shit that if we were in the room, I'd say, okay, just put your hands up, man.
Yeah.
Like, put your hands up. We'll just shoot the 31 and do what we got to do. Sometimes you just got to overlook shit and look past it and say, look, that's where they came up. They don't know your experience, all the rest of it. You know, I'm sure I've done that to my LGBT friends. I'm sure I've done that to my female friends.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to kind of look at yourself and say, hey, how good are you at relating to people that are, you know, how good are you at listening to people who have different lived experiences than you, you know? And that's one of the biggest things the channel taught me, you know, looking at Tina, where she had this one run where she was posting all the LGBT deaths and all the missing LGBT people.
Yeah.
You know, trans people.
I know.
And like, it was get to the point where it's like, there was one like every day.
Yeah.
And I messaged her, I'm like, is this? And she's like, yeah, man, that's how it is. I didn't know that, bro. I didn't know that until, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you gotta, and if I didn't have this channel, I'd have been around saying dumb shit, you know, saying hurtful shit about trans people because I was talking about a community I didn't know a fucking thing about. So that makes me say, wait a second here. Yeah, your white friends are doing that to you, but that's part of the limitations of us as human beings. So how about we overlook that and try to remain friends so that our kids have a fighting chance of not having to deal with this bullshit.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's where I'm at with it.
If we don't figure it out, then our kids are inevitably going to be in the middle of it.
Oh, is this my guy?
Yeah, that's why I posted it.
Hey, shout out to the homie. This is Anthony Austin, guys. He's got a
he does photography.
He's one of the premier photographers in the Maine area. He doesn't have his shit stood up right now, but keep an eye, keep a lookout, because as soon as he does, send me an email, vinandsori@gmail.com, when all your shit's up, bro, and we'll do a proper promotion for you. But anyway, nice to meet you too, bro. Good to see you. And I promise you, the next Maguire or Batushka show or whatever, I got you. Okay.
So what do you give it? You gave it a 10?
I gave it a 10.
Okay, so I liked the guy's voice. It was punk, right? This would be considered punk.
Look at Wade Haynes. I wasn't aware black people can't make it on America. Okay. Now Wade took that entire discussion and that's what he came up with. Now I'm supposed to be angry at this guy. I'm not angry at him. People, that mentality is not going to survive another 5 to 10 years. I'm not angry at him, and you shouldn't be angry at him either.
Yes.
He spoke crazy. What did you give it?
So it was punk. I liked the punk sound of it.
Yeah.
I liked the guy's voice. Obviously,
Yeah, he had a good voice.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't agree with where he's coming from. I think that, you know, there's one mistake that even I made before you and I were married, where I felt like because I had a black friend that I could speak on black issues and that I knew what was going on, even though I didn't. And you had understood and read from me that you know, there were certain people that you would have that conversation with and you would go into all the nitty gritty of it and stuff and kind of the eye opening. And then there's times where it's like, it's just so, it takes so much from you to be able to speak on a topic that is so important, and for it to get so disregarded and flipped up and switched and stuff that sometimes it's like, you know what, I'm not engaging in that one tonight, you know? And so I didn't actually know what it was like to be black, and obviously I'm still coming into it, but I didn't even have a glimpse of what it was really like to be black in America until you and I were married. And even it took a little while, even when we were first married, you know, seeing people, the way that they would react sometimes when we go into places because we're interracial, and just seeing how.
Shout out to the I ain't gonna say.
So yeah, you know, just seeing those things, and I think that it's hard, like. It's hard because you think, like, I thought I knew and I really had no clue. And in fact, I was making things worse. And so you have to be able to know that the person that you're talking to is, you've created an environment where they can be actually open and honest to say, hey, this is how things actually are. And I think that that's true of all sorts of issues. I think it's true of a woman who's dealt with misogyny and who's dealt with, you know, being a victim in lots of different situations and in society, and how society treats women and the objectification and all that stuff. Like, if you don't have somebody that can just sit down and honestly say, hey, look, this is how bad it is over here on my end, and you're not open to listen, then you're not really going to have a clue. Same with the issues of being black in America and what that means, and what it means to have children that are mixed, and the dangers that they could be in. You know, our son went to the store the other night to get something, because you wanted some cornbread. I was out of milk, and so he went to the store to get the milk. And from my vantage point, it was taking him way too long to get back. And, like, I just felt all this fear coming up inside of me. I was thinking of all the things that could go wrong. I was like, well, what if his bike slipped in the street and a car hit him? Or what if he put something, because one of my kids went one time and he thought he had this brilliant plan, and he had a backpack, and he was putting all the stuff that he was going to buy into the backpack and using that as like a shopping cart. Because I honestly, I don't know how he had that missed, because I've had a billion conversations with him about it. But, you know, stuff like that where I kept thinking, like, if this was my white child, then I wouldn't be afraid that something was going to go wrong, and that, you know, there could, you know, things could go really bad really fast. Like, I have Tamir Rice and that interaction that he had with the cop. It's in my head, and it is burned in my head. I see him at the table and what he did at the table, and how it was so just childlike. Like, he was just a bored kid. And then here comes these cops just rolling up and just killed him. And then his sister comes up and she can't get to him because the cops are keeping him away. And then the mom comes up, and it's just, what a horrible and terrible scene. And it was something that, like, it was a fear I never knew. And it was a fear that I never even had to be concerned about, because I was white, my ex was white, and my kid was white. And so it wasn't even something that I even recognized. But now it's like a legitimate thing where I'm like, well, what if something, you know, what if something goes wrong? What if somebody gets to, you know, whatever? And it's a very scary kind of place to be in, because, and it's even more scary when people think that they know, and people are saying, oh, you know, racism, it doesn't exist, and different stuff like that. And it's like, well, no, if you just take 10 minutes and watch some of the videos of just this past year, what has happened to black people in America. And some of the stuff is just straight horrible. And then flip that over to see how white people reacted to wearing masks. Like, I can't go on Facebook, my personal Facebook, without seeing multiple posts about how ridiculous it is to wear a face mask, and how upset people are about it, and like the aggressive nature of their reaction to having to wear a face mask. And it's like, okay, so just wearing a face mask is going to make you blow up to that degree, but you want the mothers whose children have been gunned down in the street not to riot, not to do any reaction, but to have a peaceful protest. But then when they do, and somebody happens to kneel during the anthem, everybody's gonna go blow up on that too. It's like, okay,
but they love him for being an individual, right? Isn't that it?
Yeah, you know.
They're not saying you should do this as a collective. You should honor the flag as a collective. They're respecting Kaepernick's individualism, right?
Yeah. So
messy as hell. All right,
yeah,
I'm done with this song.
So like lyrically for me, like, you know, the guy was off. You know, I think that he didn't understand, and I think that he should get some more knowledge, because, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with having influence, and it's very, very important that when you have influence that you're not out just spouting your own personal agenda and your own personal thoughts, but that everything that you say is very well thought out. And so I would encourage the brother to talk to some people that are in the midst of that and see if because you're wrong. So you need some knowledge dropped on you. So, I think that he did well, like, the song-wise, but I have to go with a low score because I don't like, I'm not with the ignorance here, and, so he's got a 3 from me.
Jambi, you did not get kicked out of the band, you weirdo. All right. Having said that, dear listener, Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.